Are you longing to feel connected and not so alone? Longing to be happy and more alive? Badass Counseling is excited to announce the creation of Community Plus, a subscription-based private group of folks just wanting to more closely share their soul journey together with like-minded folks and with me, Sven. For a monthly fee, you'll get bi-monthly live Q&As with me, Sven, giving you a better chance of getting your own questions answered. A private community feed for you to post pictures, successes, struggles, joys, even the occasional cat picture, creating greater connection and help for healing and growth. Random drawings for free small group sessions and drawings for private coaching sessions with me. Priority access to becoming a guest on the Badass Counseling Show podcast. Unlimited access to my DIY video courses, Healing the Soul and Unleashing Your Greatness. And so much more. Community Plus is for people serious about their soul journey who want real growth, real help, real laughter, real connection, and true community. Join us now at badasscounseling.com.
From the New York City area, welcome to the Badass Counseling Show, where the master badass himself, Sven Erlandson, takes you deep and gives balm for the soul, baby.
Oh, yeah. Ho, 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 ho. Yeah, you have found the Badass Counseling Show. And it is so great to have you here. We were wondering if you were going to make it. We've been waiting, and then you arrived. And it's just such a treat to have you here. My name is Sven Erlandson. I am the host of this fine show. And whether you are tuning in from Dubai or North Dakota, or perhaps from upstate New York, it's just great to have you here joining us in the Badass Counseling Show. I am joined in studio by KC over there in the booth and Rob the Rocket sitting next to me. Rob, what's the good word for the day?
My earworm today is Train in the Distance by Paul Simon, because listening to our podcast always makes me think of the end of the song, which is the thought that life could be better is woven indelibly into our hearts and our brains.
The thought that life could be better is woven indelibly into our hearts and our brains.
Yeah.
In other words, we are wired to always have hope.
Yeah, always have hope. Sometimes make the wrong decision to change a situation. That's
all do
possible.
That. Sure.
But I think it's a very hopeful idea.
I love that. That's beautiful. I don't know that I know the tune from that one.
Don't ask me to sing. Everybody will tune out immediately.
Well, if you had your guitar, I'd ask you to play because you're excellent on that.
And then we'd have two reasons for people to tune out.
Get out of here. Get out of here. All right, Rob, we have Della joining us this evening. Tell us about Della, please, Rob.
I'd be happy to, Sven. Della wrote in and said in the subject line, trouble being successful in anything anymore. And she writes, hi, Sven, really enjoy the podcast and what you do. But I've been in a period of my life the last 7 years where I can't seem to succeed or get momentum for anything. It felt like something changed when I moved out of my hometown, and since then, life hit me like a ton of bricks. I used to be easygoing, succeeded in school without issues, rebelled a bit, but was still a good kid, and found being happy fairly easy. Then I went to college, and ever since I can't succeed in school or any friendships I attempt to make fail. Relationships always seem to be tumultuous. I can't for the life of me figure out a career. I self-sabotage and altogether find myself cycling back to the same low, lost, and exhausted place I was before. I've been to therapy for a good part of these past few years, but majorly struggle to open up. I want to end this repetitive cycle I felt stuck in, but I don't know what's causing it or where to begin.
Della, great to have you on the show.
Great to be here, Sven.
Thanks for joining us. I want to ask you, you said I can't seem to succeed or get momentum for anything. It felt like something changed when I moved out of my hometown. Since then, life hit me like a ton of bricks. In one sentence or less, what fundamentally changed inside of you when you moved out of your hometown? What did you feel? What do you sense? Looking back, first of all, how long ago was it? And then what fundamentally changed when you moved out of your hometown?
Well, it was about 7 years ago, and I think the biggest thing that changed is I lost a big sense of security, and I don't know if I was ready for that.
And And as a result of losing a sense of security, what did you feel? What then happened again inside of you?
I think that I had a direction for a big part of my life. And when I left home, things didn't really line up the way I was expecting them to. And I started to just feel very lost.
That makes sense. And let me ask you, what percent do you think fear kicked in? When you lost that sense of security, did your fear increase? And what do you think your fear level became sort of as that sort of set in that, oh shit, I don't have that sense of security?
I would say it was about 50% initially and probably grew to about 75%. It was definitely a very anxious period of my life.
And now it's 7 years later. What would you say the fear level is in your life presently?
I would say probably 60%, but my biggest concern is I think I'm numb to a lot of it. So I don't know if I'm entirely feeling all the fear, even if it's still in me.
And when you say numb to it, why do you think you're numb to it all?
I think in the past, when I would think about my life, it would bring up this sense of panic. And now when I think about it, I just push it away, push it away, push it away. I don't want to think about it.
Because it's so scary?
Mm-hmm.
Right. No, that makes total sense. You know, they say that when you go to a foreign country, especially if you're going there for the first time, the first thing that goes is your sense of humor. Now, that may seem unrelated, but you're in a foreign country, and so everything is new and it's disorienting, and it inspires or incites a sense of fear. And laughter comes out of a sense of relaxedness, right? Mm-hmm. So when we're in a new environment, we're not relaxed. By losing our sense of humor, what it's really saying is we tighten up. And by you losing that sense of security, you began to tighten up. Let me ask you, though, you sort of said two things. I left my hometown and I lost my sense of security. And you said I had a direction, but then I lost it. So which was it that most caused you to lose your sense of security? Was it actually leaving your physical hometown, or was it sort of the loss of your sense of direction? Because you sort of cited two different things.
Mm-hmm. I think the loss of direction. When I started college, it was a very crazy experience right off the bat. And I think that just put a lot of fear in me right away.
And what was the original intent? When you went off to college, I'm going to be a what?
Well, it's not so much what I was going to be. I had a college picked out. I went all the way to that college. I was a day away from moving and I couldn't stop crying and panicking. And I basically changed everything all at once. I had to transfer to a different school. It was chaotic. It was a very intense introduction into college.
Fair enough. And so did you transfer to a school closer to home or what?
Yes.
Very good.
Yep.
Very good. And so you transferred to a school closer to home, and then you stayed there, graduated from there. Was that what happened?
No, I actually transferred again. And pretty much ever since then, my school experience, I've taken multiple breaks. I'm currently on another break. I attempted to finish one degree, didn't finish it, and started another degree. I'm very close to finishing that one, but I'm on another break. And that's why I say it's just a cycle. It's been happening over and over ever since then.
And you see that as bad.
Mm-hmm.
And
yep.
And this is going to sound like a fucking stupid question, but I excel at those. And the question is, why is it bad?
I think I just had an idea for how my life was going to go.
Okay. So it may or may not be bad. It's disorienting though.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not what I expected. But again, why is it bad?
I think I was just a high achiever for a long time, and things just kind of worked out well for me. And then I went to college and it stopped being that way.
All right. I'm going to tell you something here, Della. When I was in high school, senior in high school in Minnesota, my goal was to go to one of the academies. All right. I got accepted to West Point and the Air Force Academy. Committed to West Point. At the very last minute, I decided to go to the Air Force Academy to become a fighter pilot. I could have played football at either one. I ended up playing at the Air Force Academy on the greatest team in Air Force Academy history. All right. I went 11-1, blah, blah, blah. I was there for 2 years and then I left. And then I went back to Minnesota, largely because I was homesick, but I'd gotten accepted to an Ivy League school, to Cornell, their School of Hotel Administration, and decided not to do it because I knew I didn't want to go into business. In retrospect, why didn't I just fucking go there and study and then transfer to one of their different schools, whatever, study something else, whatever. I'm an idiot. But it doesn't matter. I was homesick. So I went back home to Minnesota, went to the University of Minnesota, thought, well, I'll take some summer classes there. Started taking a philosophy course. I fucking hated it. First day was fucking awful. And I quit. All right. So college number 2. Then I went to a small liberal arts school in St. Peter, Minnesota called Gustavus Adolphus College, being the good Swede that I am. Spent a year and a half there, majoring in mathematics and religious studies, got thrown out of the religious studies department one semester before graduation, decided to quit college altogether one semester before graduation, took about a year and a half, 2 years off, met a girl, got married, blah, 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 and then went to my 4th college in Minneapolis, Augsburg College, graduated in 1 year, summa cum laude. Okay. Then from there, went out to seminary in Berkeley, California, spent a year there. Wife leaves me. We have a child. She moves back to Minnesota. I finish the year out, move back to Minnesota, enroll. The largest Lutheran seminary in the world is in St. Paul, Minnesota. But I said, fuck that. I don't want to be a fucking Lutheran. I've been there my whole life in Minnesota. So I enrolled at the Catholic seminary, but I had to take my Greek and some of my other classes at the Lutheran school, my Hebrew up at the Baptist school. So now I was originally at the Lutheran school in Berkeley, then at the Catholic school in St. Paul, as well as the Baptist and the Lutheran school. And then blah, blah, blah. Long story short, then for my final year, several years later of seminary, I go back out to Berkeley. So that's like fucking school number 5 or whatever the fuck it was for graduate school. So all told, I did like 9 fucking schools. Now, similar to you, when I came out of high school, I wasn't the top student, but when I went to the academy, I was on the dean's list, I was on the superintendent's list, I was on the commandant's list. I was a high achiever. And when I left there, I had to put my fucking tail between my legs. I was a prideful is a better word, motherfucker. I was an arrogant dick. And I had the world by the tail, but I just knew it wasn't right anymore. It didn't fit. And I missed home like you. I wanted to be back near home. And it was hard to swallow my pride. And I didn't know what my direction was. I didn't know. I just knew it wasn't this. Right? Mm-hmm. And it was very fucking disorienting for many fucking years. So when I tell you, I know exactly what the fuck you're talking about. I know exactly what the fuck you're talking about. And to not know your direction after having such strong direction and succeeding and life just sort of falling into place, it's very, very disorienting, isn't it?
Yes, definitely.
Is it hard on your own sense of sort of pride, or is that not an issue for you?
I think pride probably plays a part in it. But I think I had an identity of being that good kid that just succeeded. And now I don't feel like I'm that person anymore. And that's hard to come to terms with. Not necessarily that that's true, but it's hard to come to terms with that thought.
And do you fear that people think less of you or are maybe looking down on you or like you're disappointing them?
I would say so. I have a lot of high achievers around me. So yeah.
And is it sort of hard to be in their company and you feel like, fuck?
Yeah, I think about it quite a bit.
I'll bet you do. I'll bet you do. And you had also mentioned, I can't for the life of me figure out a career. All right. Which implies a sort of anxiety. I got to figure it out. I got to figure out, what do I want to do? What do I want to do? Accurate or inaccurate? Or is there no anxiety around it?
Very accurate.
Yeah. And so then what ultimately, in that anxiety of figuring out a career, what ultimately is the fear at the root of that anxiety in terms of figuring it out? What's the fear?
I just feel like I have to do something really meaningful. I feel like it has to be something big to live up to the expectations I had when I was younger.
And have to do something big. Got it. To live up to my expectations from when I was younger. And what's the earliest you recall having those expectations?
I would say probably when I was 6.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Very young. I I joined a Taekwondo group, and I felt this instant anxiety where I had this crowd in front of me and I had to really do well. And every action that I did determined my worth in the world. And if I did bad, then that was taking points off of my worth, if that makes sense.
Wow. That's a lot of fucking pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Just out of curiosity, was it your desire to take Taekwondo? Was that something you actually wanted at 6 years old?
Yes, I actually asked my parents if I could join.
Okay. And what did they say?
They were really happy about it. They were excited.
I see. And what do you think the reason was that you wanted to join Taekwondo?
I was a very anxious kid, and I thought maybe something like that would really build up my confidence and my ability to believe in myself.
Wait, you thought that at 6 years old? I'm going to do this because it'll help build up my confidence. So as a 6-year-old, you're thinking about how to build up your confidence? Come on.
I mean, maybe in the 6-year-old mind, like, I'm feeling anxious. I want to try something new, that kind of thing.
Okay.
I don't know if I put the connection of confidence from this. It was a 6-year-old mindset, if that makes sense.
Fair enough. And so you were an anxious kid and thought this would sort of help, but then you get in there and you discovered, oh, fuck, I have instant anxiety. I'm feeling fucking pressure. Just out of curiosity, do you think children are born anxious?
No, I don't think so.
So then if children aren't born anxious, then how did you become anxious?
Well, I mean, I suppose this will probably go deep right away, but I had a bit of a difficult relationship with my parents growing up.
Difficult relationship with parents. Say more, please.
The biggest thing I struggle with, and I remember this going back to when I was very young, I was a very emotional kid. And I grew up with parents that didn't know how to handle those emotions. And I think that's when my anxiety started, because I felt like my emotions were this bad thing, and that I started holding them in, and then the anxiety started. I think that's where it all came from.
Okay. And so if you're an anxious kid, you said you started Taekwondo at 6 and you were an anxious kid. So we know then that the anxiety problems were in place by 6. So you were already getting the message about your emotions by age 6. We know that, right? Okay.
Yeah.
And you got the message that emotions are bad. And you say, I was an emotional kid. And just out of curiosity, is that good or bad or neutral or what?
I think it's not a bad thing, but it was viewed as a bad thing because I didn't have the tools and the people around me that knew how to support that.
And so you were characterized as, you characterized you as an emotional kid, or they characterized you as an emotional kid? In other words, was that the sort of the story that grew in the home that, hey, Della is the emotional kid?
I don't know if they ever came out and said it directly. It was just through actions and comments they would say to me.
Like what?
If I was crying, it was an immediate, especially with my mom, it was an immediate close up and distance and cold shoulder and go calm down in your room kind of thing. So I was influenced early on to just kind of isolate and deal with my problems by myself.
The message, the underlying message being conveyed to the child then about those feelings that she's expressing, the little girl is expressing, the underlying message conveyed by mom is what about those feelings? If she's being told, if she's getting cold shoulder, calm down and go to your room, what's the message the little girl is getting?
That it's wrong for me to have these feelings.
Bingo. That's right. And so it's wrong to have them. Feelings bad. Okay. And so you sort of learn to stuff them down. And so then how did stuffing down those feelings that you had create you being anxious?
I think I just didn't have an outlet. I didn't have somebody I could trust with those feelings. And it put me on high alert all the time. I felt kind of othered in a way, like I was the abnormal one for not being able to handle things better.
And I was othered. That's a really great word. Okay. And I was abnormal. And so that created an anxiety because why? How does being othered and being the abnormal one create a sense of anxiety in the child?
I just think as humans, we like to fit in. We like to feel accepted by people.
And so when we feel accepted, what happens inside of us? We
feel calm, feel good about ourselves.
That's right. That's exactly right. Just like going to that foreign country, we get anxious, but after we get to know the different streets and we get to know the food and, oh, the people are so nice here, we begin to calm the fuck down, right? Okay. But you got the message that you're abnormal, that there's something wrong with you. Now, just out of curiosity, is a child having emotions normal or abnormal?
Very normal. Especially when you're young.
Well, and any age. I have emotions now. Rob has fucking emotions and so forth. And so were you, quote unquote, an emotional kid? Or were you just a normal kid?
I was probably a normal kid, but I was made to seem like I was extra.
Right.
Yeah.
And not extra like, hey, bonus, you get, supersized French fries. Not that kind of extra, right?
No.
All right. Much more to come right after this short break.
So I was telling a buddy of mine how he seems happier. He told me about the book that changed his life. So I bit. I went to the Badass Counseling website and downloaded There's a Hole in My Love Cup audiobook. I started listening to it on my commute home from work, and holy cow, it was a Louisville slugger to the face. I literally sat in my car in the driveway night after night, listening through to the end of a chapter or doing the journaling exercises. My wife started to see changes. I started to change a lot. My default response stopped always being anger. Now I manage a team of salespeople, and I changed as a leader. I was listening more, not always just reacting. When their numbers started going up seemingly out of nowhere, I knew what the reason was. There's a Hole in My Love Cup is now required listening for any person on my sales team or working for me, and I gladly buy it for them. You gotta listen to this book.
This show provides soul counseling intended to entertain and inform and is not medical advice. Now, back to the badass.
We are back with Della. Della, you said that I've been to therapy for a good part of these past few years, but majorly struggle to open up. Why? Why do you struggle? Let me ask it this way. You may or may not know, or maybe you've read my book, but one of the things I say regularly is if you're ever trying to figure out why someone's doing something that doesn't make sense, or they're not doing something that would make sense, always ask yourself, what's the primary fear driving the behavior? Then speculate the answers and go with the biggest, hairiest, scariest one. What is the fear driving you to not open up in therapy? What are you afraid of?
I think just being too much for people.
Even a therapist?
Even at a therapy appointment, yep.
Wow. Mm-hmm. So in a way, and I'm not trying to be a dick, but in a way, it's like you're kind of fucking wasting your time, right? Because it's like, okay,
yep.
All right. So then I am going to ask you the $64,000 question, and that is, what is the biggest thing about you that would be too much for most people, Della? What is the whopper?
Well, from what I've learned, my emotions, my feelings. I feel like I'm super intense with my feelings. I feel everything very deeply.
Let me ask you this. You having, as you characterize it, super intense with your feelings, okay? And let's remember that you are now using the word super intense. And the characterization of a person expressing feelings way back when you were at least 6, but it had to have started before then. Already you expressing feelings was being expressed in the pejorative as you're emotional or it's not good. You were getting the message, even though it wasn't spoken, you're the emotional kid and so on and so forth. So the idea that you're just so fucking dramatic, you were already getting that message. And now you're still telling that story Now I'm super intense when in fact maybe you're just fucking normal. Okay. But do you like you? And particularly you being who you are emotionally. Do you like it? Because you've been taught it's fucking bad, but I don't give a fuck what you've been taught. I want to know if you like it.
I think I like me, but I just feel conflicted because I don't know if the world will accept me anyway.
Okay, that's fair. What, and if we're in, you said, I think I like me. Now I want to sort of winnow that down to specifically the topic of you being emotional, which to me is just fucking normal. And the most real people are the ones that allow themselves to just be their emotions if they want, moment to moment. Now, in a setting, if I'm in a business meeting, if I'm, feeling sad for the person sitting across the table because they're telling a little bit of their story, I may not break out into tears there, but I may later. It's just like, fuck, who the fuck cares? And especially, oh, you're a man, you got to be macho. Fuck that. Fuck you. Okay, so my question is, let's winnow it down. I think I like me, you said, but I want to know specifically on the feelings, regardless of what the world might think. I want to know what percent do you like that you are a feelings, passionate, whatever, feelings person? What percent do you like that about you?
I'd say like 70%.
And what's the 30% you don't like?
I think that's the part where I fear being too much. That's the part where I question, well, maybe I sabotage situations sometimes because of my emotions.
Okay, then you're still not answering my question, though. Because you're saying I fear, the 30% is I fear being too much, but you're not telling me whether or not you like it about you. Okay, so in other words, I could say, you know what? I was born with 12 toes, and this may sound weird, but I really kind of fucking like having 12 toes. I know it sounds stupid, but I like it, but I'm really afraid of what the world might think. But I 100% love my fucking toes. But you're saying I 70% like it because I 30% fear. And I guess what I'm saying is, do you like it? Because what do you fear happening if somebody doesn't like your emotion?
I think it's just the fear that it further confirms how I felt in my life. The more people that seem to be pushed away by my feelings, it's just further confirming those fears.
Sure. And the message when someone pushes you away for your feelings, the message, if you were to sum it up in one sentence, is what? The message that you get about you is what?
I think just that I'm too much for people.
Too much. All right. And so presumably that is fundamentally that you're extra, you're too much. That's the message you got about you from mom and dad, particularly mom growing up. Is that one of the primary messages you got about yourself?
Yes.
And so then is part of the challenge then being you, trying to fit into a box so that you're more palatable, trying to almost make yourself small, make yourself less than what you really are?
Yes, definitely. I struggle with that a lot.
And so what would it take? And so let me just ask you on a theoretical level, what do you think of the idea of making yourself small in order to make yourself likable?
I think it's part of the reason I feel so lost because I'm not being true to myself anymore.
Yeah. And is it possible that there's a whole fucking world of people out there who'll think you're fucking fantastic the more you that you are? Is it possible?
Definitely possible. Yes.
Well,
yeah.
Well, I'm here to tell you that you and I are two peas in a pod, little lady. And I only like people that are interesting and have the courage to be honest about what they feel. I get bored. Mm-hmm. I get bored in my personal life. I get bored with people who aren't real about what they feel. It's just like, what am I getting here? I'm getting someone who's just not being their authentic self. But the truth is, you fear not being accepted. which makes total sense because you weren't accepted even as a child. So what's really operating here is the message that got pressed into the wet cement of your soul is that you are not likable the way you are. Thanks, Mom.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. And then you had mentioned that regarding your career, that you have to do something big, and you've had that expectation since you were younger. Let me ask you this. As you think about sort of your parents and you being rejected for being too much and being abnormal and being other and an outcast and so forth, if you were to accomplish something great, what would that get you in your home, in your family? What would you get?
Acceptance from them.
There it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There it is. That's what you're really wanting. I got to get a career, and if it's big, if it's fucking big, if I just blow the fucking doors off this thing, then they'll accept me. Then they'll welcome me into the fold.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You're not trying to
Pretty
solve
much sums it up.
Yep. You're not trying to solve your career. You're trying to solve your past through your career. And I'm going to just tell you flat out, kiddo, you're at a juncture in your life, and the juncture that you're at in your life is, do you have the courage to just do what fucking feels good to you? And the people that are going to love you are going to love you, and the people that aren't. And it means you may never get that acceptance of your family. Now, let me tell you what I did. So I went into ministry because when I met that woman, we got married, and she was sort of Christian-y and I was sort of Christian-y. And, I'd grown up in the parsonage, and, preachers' kids are fucking hellions. But so I was my own version of that. But anyway, I became a pastor and did all that, and off and on for several years, blah, blah, blah. But all I knew in my 20s, all I ever wanted to do was speak, write, and counsel. And so I did it. And I was very, very poor for decades. I lost that first wife, lost the second wife, who was a dancer in Broadway shows, all this, all that. And I lost a lot of friends, lost a lot of pride. People, even my own family was like, what the fuck you doing, blah, blah, blah. But here's the thing. By my late 30s, early 40s, a lot of those people from my past were then coming to me for advice.
Mm.
Because I had weathered storms, because I had a gift for counseling. So the very thing that I had been condemned for 20 years earlier, now by my early to mid 40s, and the very thing that had been questioned, people were coming to me, old classmates, family members, even my own father came to me at one point. He was going to be performing the wedding, because Dad was a pastor. He was going to be performing the wedding of a cousin of mine, second cousin. And he said, Sven, would you help me with this sermon? Because you were always a better preacher than I was. To get that respect from your father. My father was never condemning and so forth, but my point is, Della, in the end, you got to decide if you have the courage to just be authentic, knowing that you may never get their acceptance. See, this is the juncture you're at in your life. You're so wanting their acceptance, and yet it so doesn't fit the idea of conforming or shrinking yourself, containing yourself, because you are this larger, expressive person. And so do I try to make myself and do something that'll get them to like me, or do I just fucking be myself? Do I just fucking relax? Trust that my path will reveal itself, and just follow the trail of breadcrumbs. But you're so afraid of never getting their acceptance. Let me ask you this. What would it feel like to begin to make decisions based on what feels good to you, knowing that your family wouldn't approve or might criticize you? What would that feel like?
I think doing what I want to do would feel so good that voice would get smaller and smaller.
All right. Then one of the things I talk about in my book, There's a Hole in My Love Cup, is I say the path to discovering who we are requires discovering who we're not.
Mm-hmm.
And so let me ask you, this degree that you're almost finishing, this course of study that you're studying, Is it you or is it not really you? Does it light you up or not really?
Not really. The first one did.
And what was the first one, may I ask?
Wildlife biology.
And so let me ask you a dumb question. Why not go back to wildlife biology? Or does it no longer light you up?
I think I experienced a lot of discouraging stuff with that. The people I talked to, they didn't sell it to me like it was going to be a good degree and a good thing for my life. And I figured going back to that, I have to do a big thing. I didn't want to be in a job that I couldn't succeed in and couldn't meet those goals.
Understood. But now, okay. And that was from that old frame of reference of, I gotta hit it big. I gotta hit it big. I gotta hit the fucking lottery. But now, if we were to take it from a new set of values of, I just want to fucking enjoy the ride, baby. Do you think, and I'm not pushing you, okay? We're just playing with an idea. We're just playing here, all right? Do you think the work itself would be pleasurable for you?
Yeah, it would.
And beyond that, would the work itself be fun, delightful?
Yeah, I got to experience a little bit of it and I loved it. It was the happiest I've ever been working.
Forgive my naivete, but what is fun about wildlife biology for a guy who doesn't know? What's fun about that?
I think it takes the passion to see the fun about it. But
okay, so what does a wildlife biology person actually do?
It depends greatly on what field you go into. But as an example, I had an internship where I did research and I spent a lot of time in the lab and I spent a lot of time in water suits outside, just studying things, learning things about nature.
And you enjoy that?
Yes, I do.
And what does that do for you? Why is that fun for you?
I think I love the outdoors. I've always loved the outdoors. It's the happiest place in the world to me.
Fucking hell, kid. You're just you're hitting all the right notes there. It's the happiest place in the world for me. I love the outdoors. It's sitting right in front of you.
Yeah.
There's an old Zen Buddhist proverb. The truth is obvious. It's been sitting in front of you the whole time, kid.
Yeah. You're right.
Yeah. But for you to go back and now go that direction, well, shit, you'd have to change course. You'd have to abort this line of study. God, you look so stupid. And what would people fucking think? And oh my God, look at Della. There she goes again. How would you, if you were to do that, how would you handle all of that from the naysayers? But also, how would you handle all that shit inside your head? What would you do? All those old voices saying, there she goes. Jesus. Ugh. How would you handle that? What would you do about that?
Honestly, I've played with the idea of just finishing both majors and just kind of being able to say, there you go. I finished both.
Fair enough. You've played with that idea. And then let me ask you, just going back to my question, if you just went back and did the wildlife biology degree, what would you do with the voices coming from other people and inside your head? What would you do with those?
I don't know if I'd internalize them so much anymore because I've tried what I thought that other people thought was good for me and I'm not happy.
Huh. So you're open to trying possibilities of what you might think is good for you and seeing if you might be happy with that, huh?
Mm-hmm.
This is when life begins. And so, and here's the other thing about it. You're roughly approximately mid-20s-ish. Do you have any idea how many of our listeners, how many of my clients would kill to be in your shoes, to have the chance to make that decision over again because they didn't choose wildlife biology or whatever their passion was? They chose the path that would get them accepted. Maybe the path was get married and have kids. Maybe the path was a corporate job in marketing, doing whatever's safe. Maybe it was stay on the family farm. Maybe it was whatever. You have no idea how lucky you are to be at this juncture and to be aware of the fact that your fucking dream career is sitting right in front of you. And all you got to do is
go for it.
That's right. But then what you're going to have to deal with is there are going to be those doubts. There are going to be doubters. There are going to be fears. There are going to be disappointments and sadness, as there is on any path. But you're going to have all those feelings, which means you're going to have to be deliberate about flushing all that shit out, because it's all of our emotions that fucking corrupt us. And it's like, and we get all anxious. Just like when you were a kid. If you bottle up all those fucking emotions, kiddo, just like when you're a kid, you're just going to have more fucking anxiety. So either you got to get it out with your therapist and see if your therapist can handle it. And just put it all fucking out there. And if they can't, thank you, therapist, for showing me who you are. Thank you for showing me that you can't handle it. No hard feelings. I got to go because I want a therapist who is a vessel large enough to contain me. So either you got to find a therapist that you can do it with, or just fucking do it on your own. Get a pad of motherfucking paper and a pen and start journaling your ass off. Okay? But otherwise, it's going to be just like when you were 6 and 8 and 14. You're going to have all those emotions packed in and you're going to be anxious. And that's when we make our worst decisions. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it does. Makes a lot of sense.
And then the other piece is this. And that is the mere fact that even in your write-up to come on the show, and even in our conversation here, you're still talking about this notion of having to do something big. That says that even right up until today, that was still in you, which means the desire to have familial acceptance is still in you, which means the voice of familial rejection is still in you. Okay. Mm-hmm. So you can choose that path of wildlife biology. Okay. You can choose that. And I say, tits up, man, that's fucking awesome. But you still have to do the self-work of flushing out, of identifying those core beliefs you were taught about yourself and getting those out, because they will undermine you, whether in your career, in your friendships, in your future relationships, in your love relationships, in your parenting, if you ever decide to have kids, because those voices are still in you. They were still in you as of walking into the show today. You got to get those fucking things out, because they will fuck up more things in your life. Does that make any sense?
It makes a lot of sense. And I think my biggest thing is I fear that dam breaking. I fear letting all that out.
And
it's scary.
And you know what? That's 100% of my clients. But tell me, unique to you, why do you fear the dam breaking, or what specifically do you fear breaking, or what's the experience you fear having? Dam breaking is a metaphor. What specifically is the experience you fear having?
I think, in my email, I had mentioned going to that low, exhausted place. That's, I feel, how I ended up when that dam would break. And so far it's been holding up.
Yeah.
And I don't want to go back there.
Right. But the truth is, okay, I'm going to say it from my perspective. I understand you don't want to go back there because the low sucks. But the truth is, you want to go back there. And what I mean by that is the dam is, I like to think of it as a vault. In that vault is all the feelings that you were told to pack down as a kid. But those feelings were your natural response. The feelings weren't the trauma. The trauma was what was being told to you, the messages being taught to you. Your feelings were your authentic self. So everything in that vault is good. It is actually you. Do you see the difference? If somebody punches me in the face, that's the trauma. My yelling, fuck, and my fucking having tears coming down my eyes, those are all Sven. Those are my authentic response. Okay? Those aren't bad. Those are honest responses to being punched in the face. The punch in the face is bad, but my responses aren't bad. So everything in that vault is your friend. Doesn't all feel good, but all of those are 6-year-old you and 9-year-old you's feelings. And 6-year-old you is coming to you with a box full of her 6-year-old feelings and saying, please open it. I wasn't strong enough and they wouldn't let me open it. Please set me free. And the truth is, you don't have to. But if you don't, now it's you telling her that her feelings don't matter.
I didn't think of it like that.
Because you now in your mid-20s are stronger than she was at 6 or at 16. You are stronger. But if you keep those locked down, now you're telling that little girl that her feelings don't matter, and that little girl needs you to set her free. Because she was just meant to skip rope and play and steal a little extra cookie and take long naps and laugh and be creative and be super smart and all those things. But she was taught that her feelings are bad, so she was taught to feel bad about herself. But you can set her free. That's the gift you can give to her. And the gift that she gives to you is she introduces you to your authentic self. All those feelings are your authentic self. She's about to show you what you really felt. And so here's how you set her free. You deliberately welcome the breaking of the dam or the opening of the vault, and you welcome all those feelings. And yeah, they take you down at first, but that's why you got to have an exit point for them. That's what the journaling is. Writing letters to mom and to dad that you don't send, or to people who taught you your feelings are bad. And that's giving those feelings an exit point. So you're not stuck down there. You're flushing them out. So you're welcoming them out of the vault, flushing them out, and then they're gone. Okay? Rather than just you're stuck in it. Do you see the difference between the dam breaks and you're stuck in it versus you welcome it and then you facilitate the exit? Do you see the difference there?
Yeah, I can.
Now, I know it's scary, but I am telling you, kid, I am telling you, this is the path of your liberation. This is the path of the liberation of that 6-year-old, that 16-year-old girl who just wanted to be liked and accepted and who tried so hard. She wasn't even accepted in her own home, and so she tried so hard to be accepted at school. She became a super achiever, and she always dressed right and did the right things or whatever she did. She just wanted to be accepted, right? But her feelings weren't allowed. Well, now you have to. Strong as you are now at your age. You've weathered some storms, you've weathered some criticisms, which means now you have the strength. So you got to decide, because that is the source of your freedom. And I know you're scared. So you either do it with your therapist or do it on your own. I had to do it on my own. I was in a 12-year suicidal depression. I had to go in and do it on my own because I couldn't find a therapist who could handle my shit or knew how to get me out of it. So do it on your own or do it with a therapist, whatever you fucking want, but you got to do it. And in that vein, I don't know if you've read my book yet, but that would be a good tool to walk you through it. Have you read There's a Hole in My Love Cup?
I've read a few chapters. I need to get back into it.
Right. And the journaling is the most important part, those journaling recommendations. But the truth is, kid, from where I'm sitting, you are sitting in the catbird seat. You are in such great position. You see the path based on what you've said to me, of what you really would love to do with your career. And you see the reason you didn't choose it before, because, gee, I want the acceptance of my family, so I got to choose something that's big. So fuck what I want to do. I got to find something that's big. And that's what's been fucking you up. I mean, you see that, right? I got to find something that's going to be a home run versus just doing what the fuck I love. Okay? So you know what you want to do that you would love. You know that you have all these feelings in you that are sort of gumming you up on the inside. You know you got to flush those the fuck out. And you're not afraid to basically say, fuck off sort of to any pressures from family or friends or whatever. In a way, from where I'm sitting, you're in a great fucking position. What does it look like from where you're sitting? What is the single greatest fear as we talk about this?
I think just having it in me to see it through and not go back not get scared and go back.
Right. And the single biggest thing that's going to cause you to get scared and quote unquote go back is if you allow all those feelings to stay stuck inside. The more you flush those out, the more the fear passes with it, because you'll be flushing out the fears as well. I'm so afraid that, I'm going to screw up. I'm afraid people aren't going to like me. I'm afraid that, my family is going to criticize. Just keep flushing, keep flushing, keep flushing. Trust me, kid, you're going to be fucking amazing. And the truth is this, very often when we just pursue what we love, the success comes. In my fucking 50s, I have more success than I could have ever dreamed of, even back in my 20s when I still wanted success. By my late 30s, I'd given up on having success. It's like, I don't even care anymore. I'm living life that I love. Now I'm in my 50s and I've got millions of followers around the world. I make a hearty income and I get to change people's lives, but only because I just committed myself to doing what I love. So one day that success may come, but it's long after you gave a shit about having that massive success. Life has a sense of motherfucking humor there, kiddo. So it all boils down to whether or not you have the courage to just finally to begin living an authentic life. And I think you want to. And it's just,
I do.
I know you do. And it's just a matter of having the courage and then doing the work to flush out all the crud inside of you that's bogging you down. Well, Della, I want to thank you so much for being on the show. Could I ask you to stick around just for a quick overtime afterwards?
Yes, of course.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for having me.
You've been a great guest, Della. Rob, any closing thoughts or thoughts?
Couple things. First of all, it's simplistic, but do what you love and the money will follow. It's often true, but it is a bit simplistic. And the other thing I would say to Della is never doubt that over time, many will say, don't go changing, love you just the way you are, so to speak. I thought of that myself.
Don't go changing.
Yeah, all right.
Trying. All right. Yeah, Rob, well played. To everyone out there listening to Della's story, it's always great when we have young folks on the show. It's always great because I think so many of our middle-aged and older listeners are just so goddamn jealous that they would kill to be back in Della's shoes themselves and have the opportunity to make those decisions that Della gets to make now. And when we're young, we don't realize how we really do have the tiger by the tail and the opportunity to really live life large and on our own terms. So, but it's never too late, folks. Regardless of age, it is never too late. So let us all be inspired by Della today and her new path that is ahead for her. On behalf of my team here, KC in the booth, Rob the Rocket sitting next to me, have a kick-ass day.
The Badass Counseling Show is strictly copyrighted. No copies may be made without the express written consent of the Badass Counseling Show, LLC. The Badass Counseling Show is produced by Karen Camparelli and Robert H. Friedman. Executive producer Sven Erlandson. Original music by two-time Emmy Award-winning composer Trevor Morris. Have a kick-ass day.